Today I'll be talking about the new Skyline RSGS from Photo Hire. This is the a camera stabilization hardware that Photo Hire recently developed, and it underwent a lot of firmware changes. It initially came out with the firmware 1. I believe 1.1.4, and now the latest upgrade is version 1.2.2, and with every releases they've been fixing a lot of bugs, and there were a lot of issues initially when this product was launched, and with the feedback of testing, and a lot of people that wanna was flying it and testing it, and working and sorting out ways to actually resolve the problems they had earlier versions, and they pretty much fixed all the bugs they have. There might be a little few, but now it is not that much noticeable that it used to be. So if it's correctly dialed in, and this performance is really outstanding, but it's a little bit tricky to set this up, and the reason being is that the document now that the Photo Hire released, the manual, is well versed, but it's always going to be a little bit difficult, I believe, for the first time user that is trying to set it up. I had the same problem initially, so I have to visit a lot of forums and ask around feedback from the other fellow fellow flyers, and trying to get a feedback from the people to actually set it up. Took a while, but I tell you what, it's outstanding. When you are dialed in and everything is performing the way it is, this gimbal stabilization is the best so far. So I'll talk a little bit about what's included in the box, how you're gonna mount it, setting up the servos to find a set of frequencies, basically calibrating it, and then fine-tuning it to get the best results. So to begin with, there's my hexacopter. It's a DroidWorks 86 hexacopter, and I have a AB130 gimbal. Let me zoom in. And I'm using an AB130 gimbal, and I have an I have a Skyline installed right here. So that's the Skyline right here. That's the RSGS equipment from Photo Hire. It's not bigger than this. I mean, it's a pretty small, as you can see, and it pretty much fits within the between the two frames of the gimbal. It's a very, very unique design, and when they initially launched it, I was wondering where you can actually install it, because if you have seen the AB130 gimbal, there's not much room you can actually install another hardware, and but they did a good job in getting it smaller, and they squeezed it between the two frames. This much they pretty much install the same way on the AB200 gimbal, just as they do on the AB130 gimbal, but they have a little bit they have an extra hardware that's in the box that you needed. So I'll show you how the box is. So this is the box that come with, and this is pretty much the when you buy a Skyline RSGS, they'll provide you this box, and what this box has basically, and I'll just zoom out a little bit. So what this box basically has what it comes with. Okay, alright. So it comes with a USB cable. Alright, so this is a serial cable that you need this to actually program your Skyline. This comes with the kit. You also happen to get the a wire harness for the Skyline. Okay, you do get a this is an adapter for the AV200. I don't need this because I'm using AV130 gimbal. It does come with the hex screwdriver, and it comes with mounting screws. Okay. So if you have bought this Skyline before September 2012, you will get a cable like this. So with the new release of the firmware 1.2.2, they require you to modify this this wire harness, and there are instructions on the Photo Hire website how to modify that. But in order to have the 1.2.2 firmware working, you need to have this modified wire harness. So if you have it, if you purchase the Skyline before September 2012, you can always contact your dealer from where did you buy it, and then they can provide you the a modified wire harness. They also include, with the new box, they also include what called the dummy pots, and I'll show you where the dummy pots are. You need two of those because you need to install one on the roll servo and one on the tilt servo. If you don't have this, your dealer who you bought with, the Skyline, will provide you that. Okay, so that's it. This is what you get, and I'll show you how to install the wire harness, and I'll show you the do and the don'ts for operating the Skyline, and I'll show you the tuning and the setting up and everything. Okay, so basically, and I'm not gonna take this cable out, but I'll show you with my this cable right here. The harness actually has, I'll show you the actually I'll show you both the harnesses and the difference between the two harnesses, and I'll show you what's been modified on the new harness. So this is the Skyline harness. All right, it clearly marks the top, and that means that this top will actually insert on the Skyline like this. Your Skyline, just take this out actually. Your Skyline has to be mounted like this. All right, so has to this harness, this cable, the input for that cable right here, this goes up. So if you cannot put this upside down, sideways, it has to be always on top. And then the cable, and it's clearly labeled the top side, and that top is actually gonna mount like to the top like this. All right, you have top, and that goes into right here. Okay, so what we have in this harness, right? Let's talk about that. So we have roll servo, right? You have tilt servo. So your roll servo, your tilt servo cable is there. You have for the pan servo. So if you have a 3-axis gimbal, and if you have let's say AV130 with 360 pan, so you need to have a pan servo, roll servo, and the tilt servo. So these 3 cables will go into your servos: tilt, roll, and pan. Okay, this cable is actually what is called the roll input. Okay, and you have tilt input, and you have what is called the pan input. Okay, and then you have something called the tilt pot and the roll pot. Okay, this is the old harness. In the new harness, the roll pot and the tilt pot, they took it out. they don't have it anymore. So the quick way to find out if you have a newer wire harness or old, the old one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 cables. If you have 8 cables, just like what I have, then you have an older wire harness. But if you have a newer one, which I have right here, I'll show you. You should pretty much have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. If you have 7 instead of 8, then you have a newer harness. That's one way to find out. And the other way to find out, you're not gonna see any roll pots or tilt pot marked. What you see is tilt servo cable, roll servo cable. You would see a pan servo cable. You would see a tilt input. You would see a pan input. You would see a roll input, and you would see something which is optional. You can do it if you want, if you're modifying the harness, but if you are getting a newer RSGS, you're gonna get with this is a cable called auxiliary. This auxiliary cable is useful in case you want to shut the Skyline off remotely. Alright, you can put this in your spare channel receiver and you can shut the wire off, shut the Skyline off with the flip of a button, with the flip of a switch. Alright, so this is not necessary. If you're modifying it, you need to do that, up to you. Otherwise this is just, you know, doesn't require it. But you need to modify these the other cables for the tilts and rolls, and there's a little bit soldering involved and cables cutting and everything. There's an all instructions how to do that. I luckily I had the older Skyline also. I contacted my dealer and he sent me a wire harness, right? So I don't have to do all the soldering and stuff. They also come with something called the dummy pots, and I'll show you what these dummy pots are. So these are the dummy pots. They pretty much have the resistors in it. So if you I don't know if you can see it, but if you can look at this right here, it just has resistors in it. So these are also modified, and they already come from the photo hire. And in the previous versions, we had a lot of jittering on the servos, and that was also reported by the users when they were trying to calibrate it and tune it. So the photo hire with the newer firmware, they also required you to put this for the roll and the tilt servos. You need to put this dummy pots. So these pots basically replace the cables that were used earlier. If you remember, on the older harness there was a tilt pot and roll pot. They actually replaced those cables with these dummy pots, right? And you need to have two of these, one for the roll and one for the tilt. For the pan you don't need it. And if you see the instructions online, tell you how to actually put it there, and so everything is there. So I'm just telling you, regardless of that you need to put this on your tilt servo and the roll servo. And so with the newer Skyline, they also come with this. So if you want to ask a dealer, they can also provide you this. Okay, I'm gonna put this back. All right. So first thing first, right? What we need to do is, I'm gonna just keep away the old harness away. So first thing first is to mount it. Let me zoom in. So if you see, there's a small screw right here. So that's a Skyline unit right here. It'll just pop up if you just take the screw off. So what you need to do is you need to have put this right here, put the screw in, and you have to make sure that this is perpendicular to 180 degrees, meaning this should be on the top but they should be 180 degrees. They should not be tilted like this or tilted like that. It has to be very, very straight. And the way you do it is, you have, I use this spirit leveler, and I put it right here. So even if you before set it up, you have to mechanically set it up first before you start calibrating it. So you want to make sure that your tilt is level, right, with that bubble range. And let me just right here, freaking, I don't know if you guys can see it, but so you have this level right here. You wanna level this tilt. You wanna tilt this so it's between the it's rightly it's level right here, and then for the roll you need to also make it level, right? So you do it like this, right? And okay. So if you have something, you want to install this right here, the Skyline, right? You know, have to screw it up. Make sure that this is actually level with this. This one doesn't. I mean, you try your best to level this, but if it's a little bit off, it doesn't matter. We can always set it up on the software itself. But again, try your best to mechanically level it as much as you can. And while you're setting it up, you need to have this the leveler, so you can set up appropriately the levels, right? So that's one thing to you know, it's kind of important. Okay, so what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna put this wire harness. After you install this, you put the wire harness, right? Top should be okay. Top should be the top right here. It's kind of like firm, so push it hard enough. You're not gonna break anything. There you go. All right, it's in. So before you do anything, right? Before you start putting everything on this, you know, start putting on your connectors on the servos. Before you're doing that, what you need to do is you need to, and I already have set this up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna a little bit lighten, you know, loosen the screw and take this belt out, and I'll show you for this. Oh, let me get the screw from here. Okay, so what you need to do is there's a 4 screw right here, 1, 2, and there's 2 on the back. I'll loose it up. All right. You need to lose it out a little bit. Don't take the screw all the way out. What you need to do is you need to just loosen this belt. So this comes down a little bit. Okay, and then what you do is you just take this belt out. Okay, now the belt is out, right? Okay, so see, this is loose now. That's the same way you do for the roll servo. You take the screw out from here, you take this gear out, and you loosen up. So this is gonna be loose. I'm not gonna do that with this because it's gonna, for me, it's hard enough to go down there and unscrew it. So I'll leave it the way it is for now. Okay, but I'll show you how to set up the center frequency for this tilt servo. Is the same way you do for the roll servo. Okay, so this is loose now, right? Okay. Okay. What you're gonna do now is you will connect this tilt servo cable with the tilt servo cable right here. Okay. And then you're gonna make sure your white is the signal wire here, your red is the positive, and your black is the negative. And same goes for light orange is actually the signal wire. So you're gonna have a white with the orange, and it's also in the manual. So you put right here. Okay. And to power up the Skyline, this is very, very important, guys. To power up the Skyline, you should not exceed more than 6 volts, right? 5 volts will work, and it works perfectly for me. And I use a BEC. I have the BEC that provides 5.1 volts by default, so it's not programmable, right? So, and that is more than enough for me, right? So this one, you're gonna connect this. Okay, you're gonna connect the BEC with on your pan servo. Okay, you're gonna connect this on your pan servo. If you're using a independent Skyline, and if you're not using any receiver, you just want to power up Skyline, you need to put this on your pan servo, and I'll show you how to do that when you want to use it on a receiver, so you can, by flip of a switch, you can tilt it down or roll it. But for now, I'm gonna be independently setting up a Skyline and independently providing external power to the Skyline, right? But I'll go through that one later in this video. So you put this cable on the pan servo. Again, black, red, be careful not to reverse anything. Make sure this is the right, make sure that this is right. You don't want to put upside down, you're gonna burn it. If you do, make sure the top is top. Alright, it looks like it's good. And the next thing you need to do is you need to grab that USB cable. Okay, it's a long cable, and this USB cable goes into the pan input. Okay, so look for a wire called pan input. Here we go. Again, white will go into white, and then red will go into green, and black will go into black. Make sure that's also right. So white. Okay. Connect this on the USB cable in the computer. Download that software from that Photo Hire website. It's there, and you can easily download that without any problem. Install that and everything and set it up. I'm gonna fire up my laptop right here. Okay. Let me take these things out of the way a little bit. Make a little bit of room here. I'm gonna bring my laptop right here. Okay. Here. So. Okay, I think it's good enough. All right. So. Let's see if I can bring it up on top. I think this is good. Okay, so first thing first is once you put the cable, it'll detect the drivers and everything, and it'll get installed. And you see that it says COM port not connected. You need to make sure you get connected on the COM port, right? And it looks like I'm already connected on the COM3. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on OK, and this will say that your COM port is connected but Skyline disconnected. You need to power up the Skyline to get it connected so that the software can actually detect it. You cannot power up your Skyline with the USB cable. That's one thing also. So I'll power up my Skyline. Alright. Orange is starting up, then it's gonna do the initial calibration, and then it will turn just green. But I'm gonna connect this to COM3, and once connected, once it turns blue, it means that it's in the programming mode right now. So you can program whatever you do. So if you don't see a solid blue light like this, then it means that it's not programming, but for now it is programming. And if it's a solid green, that means it's already initialized and it should work the way it should work, right? Anyways, first thing first is what you see is the servo mode, and by default, and let me just do this. Let me restore defaults first. Okay. So if you go first to the tilts on the servo page, what you see here is the limits: 90, 0, slew mode, and then you have a reverse. Mine is actually, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna set it to reverse. That's one thing. You wanna set the roll servo to reverse. Alright. 90 degrees is the limit of the tilt, how much tilt you wanna go. From 0 to 90, 45, 35, up to you how you wanna do it. By default set to 90, I'll leave the way it is. Alright. And then for the roll servo, it's just set to 25 degree, means how much you roll, how much degree of roll you want to have. So this is 25 this way, 25 this way. You make it 30, 35, it'll tilt 35, 35, depending on your gimbal configuration. So this AV30 gimbal can have a maximum of 25 degree tilt, roll on both sides. So that's why software gives you 25. You can actually increase it the way you want to do it, but I'll leave it the way it is for 25. 25 need that. For the tilt limits, I want to have from 0 to 90, and I don't want to go beyond 90. So that's a still setting also have. So both of these need to be set to reverse. Okay, before I go to tuning, you need to make sure your gains should be all 0 for now. Okay, but because by default these are all set to the default values. Okay, I'll make everything 0. Okay, and now you can just hit save setting. Whenever you make changes, you wanna save it. You wanna save settings on this. So once you click save, it will say something called settings save to flash. That means it is saved. Now, if you go back to the tuning stage, this is the most important stage, and everybody has a different way of setting it up, and I'll show you my way of doing it. So first thing first is what you need to do. Again, if you have mechanically set the way I mentioned earlier, that this needs to be 90 degrees, and let me just set up the center frequency for the servos first, and then I'll go through that part. So what you need to do is you need to find the center frequency for the tilt. This is set to 0. So, and in order to set this up, you need to turn on the servo. This is in the programming mode. So I'm gonna this is in the programming. I'm gonna bring it back. I'm gonna bring it to normal mode. And the way you do it, you just turn the servos on. Now this is turned on, so it's working, right? But if you see closely, my servo is like rotating. See, it's rotating clockwise. So it is not centered. So I have to find a center frequency for it, right? If you look at close, you see how it's rolling, and it'll continue doing that. You don't want that. You want it to be you want this to be dead stop, right? You don't want this rolling, and that's why you need to find a center frequency. So the way you do it is basically you just go positive. Let's say you start doing it, you just click on the mouse and it'll start rolling. The number's gonna start rolling over here, you see. And then you need to find a number that will stop you. Sometimes you will find you're going too high, it will turn from clockwise to anti-clockwise, and then you're gonna slow down, and then it'll stop, and that's what your center frequency is. And then it's gonna start moving again to the clockwise. You don't want that. You want it to be moving from one stop, and that's what your center frequency is. That's what you want to find. So I'm moving my numbers. Let's see how I can find it. Right? And this can go from 10 to 2,000 and 3,000, basically depending about your. So as I increase this, I can see my roll servo also increasing the speed clockwise. I don't want that. I want to slow down. So I think if I use a positive value, this is going fast. So I'm not going to find it using a positive values. So I need to bring it down and go negative. Alright, so I'm bringing it down, and you will hear it's going to be slowing down now. You're hearing it slowing down, slowly by slowly slowing down. Here we go. See how it's slowing down now? It has slowed down dramatically, and that's what you need. Okay, so it's still there, and it's still there. I just wanted to stop, and okay, so now it's going anti-clockwise. So I think I'm way up there, so I need to bring it down again. Go slowly, unless that servo completely stops. That's what you want. And here. That's it. That's what you want. Now it's not rotating, it's not making any noise. This is a center frequency. Once you do that, you need to hit save. You take the servo on to off mode. You take it out. Now it's against the programming mode. Now you want to hit save. Now you hit save. Now whatever you put in the number is saved. So you shut off the Skyline, you turn it back on, it's not going to change. The values are still going to be there. So this is it. And that's exactly the same way you're going to do on the roll frequency to find the roll center tune. You're going to see it's going from either clockwise, it's going to go clockwise. You increase the values, might stop and go anti-clockwise. What you need to find is once it stops and you don't hear any jittering or you don't hear any movement of the servo, and that's what the number you need to put in on the roll center tune. Now I know from my frequency, I know my number for the center frequency for the roll is -663. So I already know that because I already set it up. So I'm going to use this and I'm going to hit save. Again, says again, it's saved, right? Okay. Now, so once now it is saved, so servos, again we set it up. This is also set up correctly. Gains is all set to 0. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna shut it off because I didn't connect the cable for the roll. I will connect that, and so in order to do that, I'm just gonna shut it off. You can just shut it off completely without even shutting this thing off, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna connect the cable. I'm gonna find that roll cable that says the roll servo. Here we go. That's the roll servo. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna connect this. White to white again. Make sure you don't reverse the cables. Okay. So this is connected. All right. So what's gonna happen now is, just like pretty much we did the same before, we just gonna, sorry about that. Yeah. I'm gonna connect this COM port to 3, and I'm gonna turn on my Skyline. If you see, it's already starting up, and I'm gonna just go and connect this COM 13. So that once it goes in, it's connected, it's going to go straight to blue, which is programming mode. Okay, so the next step would be is the tuning stage, right? Where you see a set level XY, what that means is that your tilt plate and your roll should be leveled. As I mentioned before, that should be leveled. So before doing that, I need to put my belt back, right? Because I took it out because I need to set up the servo frequency. So let me put that back. Okay. Okay. Oops. Thought I had it, but it looks like not. Okay, now it's in. I'm gonna tighten up those screws again. Just gonna tighten this up. Make sure you just push it a little bit up so it's cable's not that loose. Okay. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna do the same way on the back too because there are 4 screws all together. Okay. Okay. So what you're gonna do now is, I don't know if you guys can see it, but let me zoom out. Okay. Let me cancel this out. So now what you're gonna do is, again, you're gonna take that spirit level and you wanna make a tilt and roll very level. And that's what your setting's gonna be. Okay. Roll, tilt is fine. Okay, that's level. Alright, now, so as I said before, for the set level XY, I'll say, it says make sure the skyline level is level, then press OK. So I said it's level, I level it, I'll press OK. Okay, new level set. Now once you set that value, if you go into monitor state, alright, you'll see these 2 values, tilt and roll. They are close to 0, so the roll is 0.1 and then tilt is minus 0.3, which is again kind of a little bit let's see again, let me do that again. Okay, so it has to closer than, like, it should not be more than 0.5 or 0.4, but it should be below that. If it's 0, then it's perfect. Here is you see minus 0.2 and 0.4 for the roll, so this is just perfectly leveled, right? You're not gonna see a perfect 0 value, and this is what you need. So doing this, that's the one way to look at it. Now this is gonna be set just like this. Alright, so the skyline will be set like this based on these values, what you did. So you're gonna hit save. Now the second one is set level Z. I don't do that. It causes problem. It's just what it does is you tilt this the tilt plate down 90 degrees and hit save, and then you gotta do auto tune if you don't wanna do the manual frequency. This doesn't work for me, so I always use this manual selection of the center tune 1 by 1. It's better, and it works just perfectly fine. So I'm gonna put this value, because I think I didn't save it last time, and I will just hit save. Okay, so everything is fine. So for to the gains, I would go with by default whatever they mentioned about 150 and roll being as 100. I'll start off these values first. Since I don't have pan, I'm not going to use it, but for tilt 100, for the roll 100, I believe that's also 100. Okay. And I'll just go with the default values, and then you need to do that based on your camera weight and all that stuff. You could recalibrate this, but for now I'm going to use the default values. Now once you do that, so you save, make sure you save everything, and then you're just gonna say servo on. So by servo on meaning you want to power up the skyline. You could get out of the programming mode. So once I click hit, it's gonna turn green. Here. Now it's gonna be the way it is. Now you see this? That's how it's gonna start with, and that's how it is gonna be. So if I look at my zero bubble, it's pretty much leveled. Okay, and if I look at the gain value right here on the monitor, it's telling me it's 0, 0. That means this is what I need, right? Perfect. Now it's working. So I already set it up, and if I move my copter, you see that? This is just working just fine. Here. And let me just zoom out a little bit. I don't know if you can see it, but if I move it like this, you will see what I'm talking about. There we go. Okay. So this is pretty much set up, and this is what you need, and that's how it's got. And you can just shut it off. For example, I'll just rotate this like this. For example, out of the, if I turn it on, it's gonna calibrate the way we calibrated before. There we go. There we go. So it's set the way it was set. Put the bubble in, showing me perfect. All right. Here you go, guys. This is the way you set up the RSGS Skyline. So if you have any questions, please send me a message. Thank you.